Hey guys, so welcome back. I have been gone for like 2 months. Um, it was a little crazy. If you are new to my channel or you like hadn't watched my last like couple months worth of videos, I had a baby. So that's where I was. So if you are watching this video, then you are here to hear my labor and delivery story. So I knew that I wanted to film this because surprisingly, watching labor and delivery videos really helped me in the weeks leading up to the birth of my daughter. This was my first kid, so I had no idea like what to expect, and everyone has different stories and different tales of woe and pain and all this stuff, and as a new mom, like, you have no idea like really what to expect or like how your body's going to handle it or anything like that. So the weeks leading up to me going into labor, I watched a lot of labor and delivery stories on YouTube because I wanted to know like everyone's experience, because maybe it would be similar to mine. This is going to be long because I ramble, so get a snack and a drink and go to the bathroom now. And anyway, so let me prelude the story with leading up to. So the month or so, we knew that she was going to come early. Like, we were so convinced that she was going to be here before her due date. Her due date was May 28th. And we were just convinced because, like a month before my due date, like, I was already dilated a centimeter, and I was having pretty somewhat consistent like Braxton Hicks contractions and this and that, and it was just like we felt it like deep in our bones that she was going to come early. It was just a matter of like how early. She was born at 11:55 in the morning on May 22nd, which was a Monday. So she came like 6 days before her due date. I went into labor like at 39 weeks exactly. The weeks, like the month or so before my due date, we went into labor and delivery ward probably like 4 or 5 times because, like I said, I was a new mom. Like, I had never experienced labor before. I had no idea like what it was going to feel like going into labor. Like, obviously I knew if my water broke, then the party's going to start. But like, with some women, contractions start first, and I was like, okay, well, what does a contraction feel like? I have no idea. Like, is it going to be like super intense, punch me in the face? Or is it going to be, so I had no idea. So any little like rumbling going on, I would be like, I think I feel something weird. This is not normal feeling stuff, And of course my husband was like, well, let's go to labor and delivery and find out. So we went there like 4 or 5 times, and each time I was like progressing just like very slightly. Like, I went from like 1 centimeter to like 1.5 to like 2 to 3. And the week before my due date, I had my like membranes swiped or whatever. I don't know, where they like my OB basically like and kind of like separates the sac from my uterus lining. It sounds really horrifying, and I read that it was going to be really painful, but it honestly didn't feel like anything. So, by the way, if you can hear like, it's because she's right here. So she's not sleeping right now. Like, at this moment, she's not sleeping. So this is the only time I could film this. So sorry if you can hear her. I'll introduce her when I'm done. Just go to sleep. Just take a little nap. Okay, guess not. All of the times that we went to labor and delivery, all the nurses that were there were like, oh, when you start labor, you're gonna know. Like, the contractions that you have in labor are like really intense. They're really painful. Like, there's gonna be no question about it. Like, you are gonna know that you're in labor when you start labor. And I like didn't buy it. Like, I was super skeptical. Like, but how? Like, how can it be the same for everyone? So in my mind, I'm thinking like maybe it's not going to be that way for me. Like, I generally have a pretty like good pain tolerance, like a high pain tolerance, and I just thought, you know, like maybe they're not going to be that bad for me, like at least in the beginning. So I don't know, I was really skeptical. So anyway, it was the 21st. It was a Sunday night. And, you know, like we had been doing whatever we could to progress labor. We took lots of walks, and I did the whole like eat pineapple thing and the spicy food thing and everything we could do. And, you know, we were just like, oh my God, this baby is never going to come. So it was Sunday night around like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And we were in bed. Trev had work the next morning, and he had to get up really early for a PT test. And so, of course, like that timing, it had to work out that way. So it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we were in bed, and I was feeling like weird. Like not necessarily crampy, but just like a tightening in my stomach. Like kind of like all over. Like my whole stomach was just like tightening, and it was really uncomfortable, and I couldn't really decipher if it was between like something different that I've experienced before, or if it was just like the normal, like I'm very pregnant and laying in bed is very uncomfortable for me thing. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, I could just stay here in bed and toss and turn, or I'm gonna go lay in the bathtub for a little while and soak and try to like maybe that'll like help and go away. So I go into the bath and I'm like watching YouTube, and I'm just like soaking in the bath for about like 20-30 minutes. And, you know, Trev texts me and he's like, you know, why don't we just go to the hospital and just check you out? Because this has been going on for like 45 minutes to an hour already, and it hasn't gone away. And so I was like, okay, fine. So we get dressed and we're on our way to the hospital, and we decide to stop at McDonald's because we were like, well, if this is it, I won't be able to eat for a while. So let's get McDonald's. So while we were in the McDonald's drive-thru and on our way to the hospital, we were timing my, like, what I thought were maybe contractions. And they were about 12 minutes apart, and they were only, like, maybe 20 seconds long. Which I knew that, like, that's not real labor. Labor is, like, every 5 minutes, you know, like, you know, and they're, like, at least 30 seconds to a minute apart. Like, that's what everyone was telling me at labor and delivery. Like, oh, when you come to the hospital ready to have your baby, like, that's what your contractions are going to be like. So, and they were, like, not even painful. They were, like, barely even uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to be real. So we finally get to the hospital. We eat our cheeseburgers in the parking lot. Like, really classy people. And then we go in, and, you know, it was like the same old thing. They were probably thinking like, oh my gosh, this chick is back. Like, she's not going to have her baby. She just needs to go home and wait, because we've been there so many times. So we finally get into the triage room, and they hook me up to that little like monitor situation where they like monitor my heart rate, her heart rate, and my contractions. And the woman is like, so tell me about your contractions. And I was like, well, I think I'm having contractions. She's like, you think you are? And I said, yeah, I think I am. I don't know. This is like, I mean, I'm having like some like discomfort, and it's like kind of uncomfortable, and like, I don't know what contractions feel like. And so she's like, okay, well, we're going to hook you up to this monitor, and we'll check back in like, 20 minutes, give you some time to let the monitors do their thing. She comes back and she goes, so do you think they're getting any worse? And I was like, no, they feel kind of the same. Like, they're still like 10, 12 minutes apart, and they're like 20 seconds long. She goes, actually, your contractions are every 3 minutes, and they're 90 seconds long. I was like, what? Are you kidding? Like, can you repeat that? And she goes, yeah, you're only feeling the peak of your contraction. Like, you're only feeling the tippity top part of your contraction. And I was like, oh, okay. That's cool. And so she checked me, and she's like, well, you're 4 centimeters dilated. And I was like, well, that's the criteria that I need in order to be admitted, right? And she's like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and admit you. You're going to have your baby today. And I was like, oh my God, yay. So, she's like, there is a chance that once they hook you up to your IV and everything, that they, like, your contractions may slow way down and they might end up sending you home. And I was like, okay, well, hopefully that doesn't happen. So we get into the room, like my delivery room, the room that I'm going to be spending the next 12 hours in. And we got admitted at midnight. So, like, technically, like, my labor started at 9, but, like, my, you know, labor at the hospital started at midnight. Because that's when I was admitted. And then I had her almost exactly 12 hours later. So for a first-time birth, that is pretty good. Because most first-time moms are in labor for, like, 24 hours. And I was, like, half that. So I was like, yay me. Good job, Charlotte. So, we get into the room, and the guy who introduced himself to my husband as, I'm the man that's going to catch your baby. And my husband's like, no, you're not. He was like this like Russian guy with like this really thick accent. I mean, he was really nice, but it was just very strange because, I mean, I had never had any male a part of my team up to this point, and that's how he introduced himself to us. Like, I'm gonna be staring at your lady bits for the next 12 hours. Hooray for me. Not to discredit male physicians or anything like that, but not my cup of tea. So they get me hooked up to the IV and everything, and, you know, I sign all the waivers and of, like, you know, I allow them to put an epidural in me if I choose to have one, or if I need an emergency C-section or whatever. And apparently I am, like, a very rare breed of mom, because they asked me, so what's your birth plan? And I said, to have a baby. Like, that's my plan. I would like to have a baby. And however way it happens is how it happens. If I, you know, want the epidural, then I'm going to get it. If I want to stick it out, then I'm going to stick it out. If you tell me that you got to cut me open and take her, then that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to say no to anything. I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. And everyone was just like, oh my God, like, that's so amazing. Like, no one's like that. And I was like, well, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. So you do. And I trust the physicians more than me and my, like, Dr. Google that I've been, like, freakishly obsessing over for the past 9 months. It was very chill for the first 3 hours. From 12 to 3, it was just like Sunday morning. Like, it was like my contractions didn't get any worse. They didn't get any better. They just kind of stayed the same. Apparently they were still like around 3 to 4 minutes, 90 seconds long. I still only felt the peak of them. They never hurt. They never got to the point where I, like, you know, lost my breath or couldn't talk or anything like that. Like, so that was the thing that I was like, see, I knew it. Labor isn't the same for everyone. So if you're a new time mom and you're worried and you're like, you know, everyone tells me that when labor starts that it's like, oh my God, like, don't believe them, because, you know, it might happen differently. I called my parents and I was like, hey, like, I'm in labor. Like, you're gonna have a grandbaby soon. And my mom was just shocked that I was like, she was like, you're having contractions right now. Like, why are you talking to me? I'm like, yeah, and it's nothing. It's not that big of a deal. Well, the fun stopped at 3. 3 a.m. almost on the dot is when my water broke. It broke on its own, which was really cool, because they didn't have to pop it or anything like that, and it definitely sped up the process. So that was cool. It was gross. It was really disgusting, and I'm so glad that it happened at the hospital, because if that shit popped in my bed, I'd be pissed. And it was so weird, because, like, I'm hooked up to the monitor things where I can hear Charlotte's heartbeat. So you can kind of, like, hear, like, the and when it broke, it popped. Like, it literally sounded like a balloon popping, and I could hear it on the monitor, as well as, like, internally, when you can hear stuff, like, happening internally in your body. And I'm laying there, and I hear the pop, but I didn't feel anything at first, and I was like, was that? So I kind of went, I, like, jiggled my body, and it was just, like, it was really gross. Like, it kind of felt like I peed my pants. It was so nasty. So that happened at 3. Then the contractions really started. Holy cripes on a cracker. They didn't blow up right off the bat. it took maybe about an hour to get to their full, like, intensity, but yeah, labor contractions are no joke. They hurt. They hurt a lot. So my contractions at the end, before I tapped out, were almost 2 minutes apart with like a minute and a half in between. So my contractions were longer than the time I had in between them. And they were intense. They were super, super painful. Like, I never got to the point where I was like cursing or like yelling, but it was kind of like, like I was doing that. Like I was laying like on my side, like holding on to the bed, the hospital bed, just like that, like, but not funny. Like it was bad. And it was gross because like your water, it's not just like a one and done thing. Like it pops, it whooshes, it all comes out. It's kind of like a consistent flow between the time your water breaks and you have the baby. It's kind of just like a constant flow of fluid. So because of my contractions and because obviously I'm still like very pregnant and because of the sensation of like my water coming out, like I had to get up to pee like 6 or 7 times because I felt the urge to pee and I didn't want to pee in the bed because that's gross. So I'd have to like time my trips to the bathroom like while like in between contractions because I didn't want to have a contraction while I was like walking to the bathroom and like fall or be dramatic or something. So at 8:30, I decided I am done being a big girl. I am done being a trooper. I am done. Because at this point, so it was 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. I had been awake since 7 a.m.-ish Sunday morning. So I've been up for over 24 hours already. And I have been having the most intense pain in my entire existence for the past 5.5 hours. From 3 to 8:30, I was having intense labor pain, labor contractions. Owie. I've been having intense labor contractions pains for 5.5 hours on 0 sleep. So I decided, hey, guess what? I'm going to have an epidural. And best decision I'd ever made. Like, I was like, Trev, are you going to be disappointed in me if I do this? Because I'm not disappointed in me. I think that I made it a lot farther than I thought I would. And I'd really like to get this epidural now. So the gentleman comes in and he looks like Santa, which was kind of funny. He was really nice. And so getting the epidural sucked. Cause you have to like sit on the edge of the bed and you have to like lean over as far as you can basically. And he like sticks, I mean, I didn't see the things before they went into me, but the looks on Trevor's face was not good. They definitely didn't look pleasant, according to his face. So, and it was definitely, it's like a giant needle sticking into your spine, so that hurts. And all the while you're having contractions, and you have to stay still or else he might like paralyze you. So I basically was just like sitting there and I had one of Trevor's hands and one of my nurse's hands. I was basically holding their hands and I was just leaning forward and I had like my eyes closed as tight as I can and I was just scrunched up and all like having super intense contractions where I just wanted to like punch somebody in the face. And he couldn't get the needle in right, and he kept having to like pull it out and adjust it, and I was just like, I will kill you. So finally he gets it in, and I lay back, and it's like almost instant where I was just like, oh, thank God. Like, I was numb, you know, from like the belly button down, but it wasn't the numbness where I literally couldn't feel anything. Like if like somebody put their hands on my legs, like I felt it, but it was just kind of like, and I could move on my own. So it wasn't like that, intense of an epidural where I was just like dead from the waist down. And I immediately, like, my contractions, like, the pain, like, almost completely went away. Like, I basically, it went back to how it felt the previous, night before my water broke, where it was just kind of like easy breezy, lemon squeezy kind of contractions. And, girl passed out. I fell asleep. And, because it was just like, I can finally rest. Up until, like, the last time I was checked was when my water broke. My water broke at 3 and I was still at 4. I was still at a 4, so I hadn't progressed at all from midnight to 3. I was still at a 4. And you have to be at a 10 to start pushing. If you're new to this whole thing and you had no idea. So from 3 to 5:30, I hadn't been checked. They hadn't checked me at all. Because my water broke, they, like, check you minimally because it, like, you might get an infection because there's nothing protecting the baby because the sac is, popped or whatever. So right after they gave me the epidural, Trev's like, I'm gonna go get breakfast. I'm gonna go get Taco Bell or whatever, and I'm gonna go get breakfast. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll be here. Like, I'm just gonna chill and probably take a nap. And so, like, right after Trevor leaves, my nurse checks me. And she goes, oh, you're ready. Excuse me? Yeah, you're at a 10. You're dilated to 10 centimeters right now. I was like, what? I thought I was at a 4. So that's what all those intense contractions, they were doing their job, because I went from 3 to 5:30, or 3 to 8:30, I went from a 4 to a 10. So I could have just pushed her out and then we would have been done with it. But my nurse, bless her, she was like, well, you've been awake for over 24 hours and you've been in intense, like, labor pains for the past, like, 5.5. So what we're going to do is we're just going to let you take a nap. We're just going to let you rest. She's there, but she's not, like, as far down as she could be to start pushing. I mean, we could start pushing now, but it'll just make it so you have to push longer. And, like, let's just let you rest. And I was like, okay, sounds good to me. So I slept from 8:30 until, like, 10. So I got a good nap in. But it was really funny because right after she told me that I was dilated to 10, I texted Trevor and I was like, I'm at a 10. And he was like, what? Like, I just left. Like, he had been gone for like 5 minutes. So he rushed back and he was like, okay, so are we ready to get this party started? And I was like, nope, I'm going to take a nap. So, yeah, I got to nap until like about 10-ish. And, then they woke me up and my midwife came in and she checked and she was like, oh, her head's like right there. So we're going to start pushing. And we started pushing. I pushed for about an hour and a half. And everyone thought that I was only going to push for like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes because of how low her head was. But nope. And it was funny because, well, it's funny, not funny. As soon as the pushing started, my contractions slowed way down. So when I do this again, I may get an epidural, but when it comes time to push, I want them to take the epidural out or to stop the drugs that numb me, because having the epidural was lovely in the sense that it lessened my pain, but it made me feel like I had less control over pushing. Because, like, pushing when you're numb from the waist down, it kind of felt like I wasn't doing anything. It felt like I was just gonna pop my head off and that it like nothing was happening. I mean, obviously I was progressing. Very slowly I was progressing. Like, she was slowly dropping and getting closer and closer to the outside world. But if I didn't have an epidural during the pushing, that it would have gone by quicker because I would have had more control over my lower half. And I would have had more control over, like, the sensation of pushing and, like, had more control over that. The feeling, okay, so it feels like you gotta to do your business, and you can't. That's basically what it feels like. To me, that's what my experience was. It feels like you're in the bathroom and you're trying to go and you can't, and you're just like straining so hard, and your eyeballs are gonna pop out of your head, or your head's gonna pop off your body, and you're just pushing so hard. But it's like, you get to a point, or at least I did, or I got to a point where it was just like, I was overcome with such, like, determination. Like, I was just so determined. Like, I didn't want any breaks. I wasn't even pushing on contractions anymore. I was just like, get this baby out. Like, get it out. I want it out. I wasn't, like, my delivery room was very calm. It was just me, my husband, and my nurse until, like, the showtime, and then my midwife came in. But it was very calm. It was very quiet. It was very encouraging. My husband was the best. He was very loving and sweet and encouraging, and he held my leg the whole time, and he got his face, like, down up in there, like, oh, like, that's her head, like, you know, and he would tell me, like, oh, I see the top of her head, like, I see her hair, like, you know, that sort of thing. And it was very, you know, it was very sweet and empowering and stuff. And then finally, like, you know, my midwife came in when it was time to, like, you know, for the big show, like, for her to come out. And when she got there, like, to the point where she was about to come out, it was the most, like, uncomfortable feeling ever. Because it literally feels like you have a bowling ball in your cooter and it's just stuck there. Like, and I was making a joke with my mom that there was a point right before her head popped out where I thought, I'm gonna die. I'm never gonna push her out. I'm just gonna push and push until I die, and she's not gonna come out, and then we're both just gonna die. Like, I literally thought that in my head. Like, I'm just gonna push until I have an aneurysm and die, because she's just not gonna come out. But she did. I didn't die, obviously. So the cool thing was, and I'm really grateful for my, like, birth team, they let Trev, like, totally pull her out. Once I popped the head out, which, talk about relief, like, once you push that baby's head out of you, you literally feel like, I don't know, like you've climbed Mount Everest, that you have, like you were holding your breath for a million years and you finally got to breathe again. Like, it is a relief that is inexplainable, uncomparable to anything else. Because it was just like, oh, finally, you know, like, and obviously the head wasn't, it was like getting that first little, like, part out. So as soon as I pushed her head out, Trev was the first person who got to lay hands on her. She popped her head out, and he, you know, helped her along. So I got one big push for her head out, and then I got one big push for her shoulders, and as soon as her shoulders were out, he grabbed her underneath the arms, and he yanked her out. And as soon as that happened, I, like, finally let out this, like, wail of, like, relief, and, like, it was kind of like a yell, but it was more of like, ah, like, thank God, finally. And then I just started to weep. Like, I was weeping and crying. Like, it was weird. So he pulled her out and he put her on my chest, and he got to cut the umbilical cord. So he was a very active, involved daddy, which was really exciting. It was really exciting for them too, because apparently dads are not that involved, especially first-time dads. So it was very cool that he got to experience all of those things. And like I said, he was the first person who got to, like, touch her. You know, obviously, since physicians have to wear gloves. So, and he didn't have to wear gloves. So he was the first person to touch her skin with his skin. So that's really cool. And it was just, like, the coolest, craziest, most emotional moment of my life. It was insane. Like, seeing her for the first time, it was like it's inexplainable. Like seeing your kid for the first time, you know, and especially since you carry them for so long in your belly and, you know, feel them kick and move and hiccup and all this stuff. And it's kind of like, you know, they're real, but you don't really believe it until they're there and they're touching you and you're touching them and you're looking in their eyes and, you know, seeing their melon-shaped head and their little fingers and toes and all that stuff. And it's just like such a crazy, like, out-of-body experience that it was just really cool. And yep. So yeah, she was born at 11:55 in the morning on a Monday, on the 22nd, and she was 8 pounds, 10 ounces. She was a big girl. And before the whole thing even happened, the doctor came in and checked me, and she was like, I think she's going to be like a low 7. No, she was 8'10". 8 pounds, 10 ounces, and 20 inches long. So definitely something that I wanted to share, because no one warned me about this. The day after, my whole body felt like it had been hit by a truck. I know. It, like, no one, like, obviously I knew that my lady bits were going to be sore and painful and all that stuff, and they were going to need recovery and all that. My arms and my legs, my arms especially, like my biceps and my triceps, dead. Like, it felt like I had gone ham at the gym on arm day for like 4 hours and just ripped all the muscles in my arms. Like, that's literally what it felt like, because like when you're pushing, you have to like hold your legs and like kind of pull your legs towards yourself, like while you're pushing, if that makes any sense. And so like you're working out, your biceps and triceps and everything, but no one warned me about like the muscle soreness for the day after. Holy crap, so I'm warning you now. Like, I'm giving you that warning. Your arms are going to be dead, and your legs are going to be so sore. And your back, where you got the epidural, that's going to hurt if you get one. But it took a couple days. But that's definitely something that no one prepared me for. Like, hey, your whole body is going to feel dead. Because it did. Labor isn't the same for everyone. And, you know, that's definitely something that I was like, I was waiting for that, like, moment where, like, a super intense, painful contraction was going to come, and I'd be like, I'm in labor, because that's what my doctor told me. You know what I mean? So, but it's wonderful, and it's beautiful. And now that it's all said and done, like, honestly, it was not that bad. Like, the contractions were painful, but, you know, it's like, they come and go, and the pain doesn't last forever. A mantra that I, like, repeat in my everyday life all the time is, it's only temporary. It's only temporary. It's only temporary. And that's kind of how labor contractions feel. Like, it's only temporary. Like, they come, it's painful, then they leave. They come, it's painful, and then they leave. And then, you know, obviously, like, during labor is, like, very strenuous, and it's exhausting, and it's hard, but it's only temporary, because after a while, you're gonna make it through it, and you're gonna push your baby out, and you're gonna see your baby, and then it's all gonna be over. And then, you know, you have a couple weeks of recovery afterwards, but you have your baby. So, it was not that bad. And I'm totally not discouraged. I want to have 3 or 4 more. I know I'm crazy, but it was great and not scary. So, okay. Charlotte, you ready to meet everybody? Hey, Charlotte, are you ready? She's finally asleep now. So this is my baby girl. My chubby little pumpkin. You were totally passed out. Yep, I made this. I made this chubby baby. So, totally worth it. Alright, so that concludes my story. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that if you were like me and then you just Googled or searched for labor and delivery stories because you're about to go into labor in a few weeks and you're freaking out, I really hope that this helped bring you some comfort or, you know, whatever. Because, like I said, it helped me. So I really hope that it helped you or that you found it interesting or entertaining or whatever. So, if you liked me, if you liked my story, then don't forget to subscribe. I will try to put out new videos 3 times a week like I used to, but with this little bundle of love. I don't know how successful that will be. Yep. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you wanna. Yeah. That's about it. So, I really hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.